Trace any standard human lineage backward, and you will find an ever-expanding web of ancestors. But this specific biological anomaly possesses no mother and no father. Tracing their lineage back through time reveals a family tree shaped like an isolated, perfect circle. Managing such temporal anomalies is the responsibility of the Temporal Bureau, a covert government agency built around the invention of time travel. They deploy field agents across different decades to manipulate history and stop major catastrophes, specifically a mass casualty terrorist known as the Fizzle Bomber. Navigating across decades carries a severe biological cost. The human brain cannot withstand constant temporal displacement. Over time, the shifts degrade an agent's mind, causing progressive psychological instability, hallucinations, and eventual dementia. Every operative has a strict expiration date. This animation illustrates the cycle at the center of the Bureau's most effective agent. To exist, this single individual had to give birth to themselves, father themselves, and ultimately serve as the operative who would destroy themselves. To map how this chicken or the egg nightmare actually functions in physical reality, we have to discard the calendar years. The only way to comprehend this loop is to follow the strict, unbroken biological lifespan of the anomaly, beginning from their very first breath. The biological timeline begins in 1945. A newborn baby girl is abandoned on the cold stone steps of a Cleveland orphanage. The staff name her Jane. From a young age, she displays a combative temperament paired with exceptional physical strength and off-the-charts intelligence. Those distinct traits attract the attention of a covert government recruiter named Mr. Robertson. He pulls Jane into a rigorous testing program for Space Corp. She excels in every metric, but during final evaluations, physicians uncover an undisclosed medical anomaly. Robertson abruptly disqualifies her, casting her back into civilian life. Stripped of her one true purpose, Jane enrolls in college. It is here, in 1963, that she meets a mysterious stranger. They form an intense, immediate romantic connection. But the relationship is brief. The man soon vanishes without a trace, leaving Jane pregnant and entirely alone. During a highly complicated labor in 1964, surgeons discover Jane is biologically intersex, possessing both male and female internal organs. The delivery destroys her female reproductive capabilities. To save her life, doctors perform emergency reconstructive surgery, transforming her body to function exclusively as a male. Jane transitions into a man, taking the name John. But while he is confined to a hospital bed, recovering from the agonizing physical procedures, a mysterious older man slips into the hospital nursery and kidnaps John's newborn daughter. In the span of a single year, John loses his lover, his child, and his original physical identity. Stripped of every human connection, he is left completely isolated, a vulnerability that makes him exceptionally easy to manipulate. Fast forward to 1970s New York. John is scraping by as a cynical writer for pulp magazines. One rainy night, he walks into a dingy basement tavern and pours his tragic life story out to the bartender. That barkeep is an undercover agent for the Temporal Bureau. The barkeep listens to the entire ordeal, then slides a portable time travel device across the counter. He makes John an impossible offer: travel back to 1963, assassinate the mysterious stranger who ruined Jane's life, and in return, work for the Bureau. John travels back to the university campus in 1963. He bumps into a young woman named Jane and realizes he is looking at his own past self.
He is the mysterious stranger. Drawn by destiny, he falls in love with and impregnates Jane, ensuring her future unfolds exactly as he remembered it. While John is trapped in this romantic loop, a parallel historical event occurs. A younger temporal agent, who is actually John from a slightly later point in his career, is hunting the Temporal Bureau's primary target. He tries to disarm the Fizzle Bomber's device, but it detonates, inflicting catastrophic thermal burns across his face. Looking at this timeline, we can track the burned agent's path. The barkeep emerges from the shadows of the basement, rescues his wounded younger self, and sends him to the year 1992. There, the agent undergoes massive facial reconstruction surgery. When the bandages come off, he is given a completely new face. He has physically become the barkeep. Every action John took to rewrite his own tragic history was actually the mechanical cause of his trauma. By traveling through time to seek revenge, he authored his own conception, his heartbreak, and his physical disfigurement. To finalize his mission, the barkeep makes a targeted jump to the hospital in 1964. He slips into the nursery and kidnaps his own infant self. He carries the newborn back through time and leaves her on the steps of the Cleveland orphanage in 1945. The biological life cycle is now a closed loop. The child grows into Jane, who transitions into John, who fathers the child, who becomes the barkeep, returning her to the beginning. With his history secured, the barkeep is forced into retirement. He travels to New York in 1975, but disobeys orders to decommission his time kit. Instead, he follows a trail of clues to a quiet, dusty laundrette to confront his lifelong obsession, the Fizzle Bomber. The barkeep raises his weapon, but the man who steps out of the shadows makes his blood run cold. The terrorist is an older, dementia-riddled version of the barkeep himself, telling him that his violent bombings actually prevent much larger historical catastrophes. The older man begs for his life. He warns his younger self that the cycle is absolute. If the barkeep pulls the trigger, the guilt, isolation, and psychological decay will inevitably turn him into the exact monster standing in front of him. Furious, desperate to prove he possesses free will, the barkeep executes his older self. In doing so, he ensures he takes up the mantle of the Fizzle Bomber, preparing the bombs that will one day burn his younger self's face. This diagram represents a bootstrap paradox, an entity entirely self-created. The protagonist's DNA has no external inputs. Any attempt to break out operates under the predestination paradox, dictating that history is fixed. Every supposed act of rebellion was already locked into the sequence. Robertson reveals the Bureau doesn't just manage these paradoxes, they rely on them. By stripping an agent of all genetic and social ties, the agency produces a perfect ghost, a tool with no history to trace. The loop is the ultimate vetting process, creating an untraceable operative. The protagonist resides at the center of a psychological maze designed by their superiors. Every action they take to stop the cycle is the very thing that fuels it, forcing them to endlessly repeat their own trauma. If your future actions are the precise required ingredients to construct your own past, then choice is a meticulously designed illusion. The barkeep thought pulling the trigger would set him free. Instead, it proved he was strictly following a path completed long before his first step.